awareness of the Christ consciousness. Now, awareness is what we're all looking for, or what I say I am looking for, which is an understanding of who I really am. And my Bible, your Bible, our Bible says that we're children of God, and Jesus uses that metaphor over and over again, that we are children, which means we have inherited everything from our Divine Father. So in that process, it's saying that harmony and tranquility occur when we become aware of who we really are. Everybody get that? And so in that process, how do we learn to do that? Now there's some other words here. There's, what is a peacemaker? And a peacemaker is one who has the ability to say peace to the turbulent waves of thought and have them obey. Shall I repeat that? Okay? Very, very interesting definition. It says a peacemaker, that's who we are on the track to become. One who has the ability to say peace or harmony and tranquility to the turbulent waves of thought. Anybody relate to the phrase turbulent waves of thought? Mm-hmm. And what have we got out there dealing with? Anybody have kids? Yeah. Anybody have spouses? Yeah. Anybody, we all have family, we all have issues, we all have political concerns, and those are some of the turbulent waves of thought. And it says peace to the turbulent waves of thought and have them obey. So it's learning how to control the monkey mind or put it behind us. And then it goes on and says, a peacemaker is one who reduces to peace and harmony all the thoughts of strife, anger, and retaliation in their own mind. So we got a definition. And the definition is letting go of anger, retaliation, revenge, upset, anger, which are really the basics that keep us from being in peace. Because if I didn't hold anger or upset, how would my state of mind be? It'd be peaceful. So it's a very, very interesting idea. Now, that idea translates itself further because in Isaiah, I think it's high, let me look it up. Okay, yes, Isaiah 26:3. That will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. So how do we keep a peaceful mind? We stay it on God. Now, there are certain trains of thought or teachings that say just take the name of God and put it in and hold the name of God. Now, the name of God is what? God. How many different names are there for God? Over in the Hindu religion, the Buddhist religion, they are good at reciting 99 different names. Or there's 108 different names in other areas. So there are many names for God, and in that, the names have a frequency that relaxes and calms and puts us into peaceful. Now, whatever name for God is what you use would be valuable, if that makes sense. Okay? Now, there's more to this. It's very, very interesting because we're talking about a new way of accessing. Now here's an idea. Are you ready? And Madeline took this to me actually first thing this morning. Okay? If those of you don't know our structure, I'm up early on Sunday morning, really completing what I'm going to say. And as I sat down to go quiet, she gave me this. And this is very interesting. Those of you in the Course of Love, this is part of the conversation. And this conversation, let go, come on. This conversation says, the thought system of the ego mind is a learned system. So the ego mind learns from the world around us. Now, this is very, very interesting because the mind has to learn from what we call relationships. The only reason I know that this is a stand is that I looked at it and I was told it's a stand, and so I have learned to make use of it. So when I see it, I know how to use it. Okay? The only way that I've learned to relate in this world, in this physical world, is by looking at something, having it named, and then knowing what it is in relationship to me. Okay, so that chair in relationship, I know it's a chair and I can sit on it. Now those are simple basics, and it goes much bigger than that. But everything we learn is through relationship and how it works for us. So that's how our consciousness builds up. So anything that I don't know, I don't have a consciousness of. Earlier, we've done a lot of work in it with somebody that used to remind us there are 3 different domains of thought. Things that I know, things that I don't know, and then things that I don't know that I don't know. Everybody get it? So the things that I don't know, I have no relationship to. And therefore, if I'm going to get into it, I have to learn it. And create a new neural structure that says, aha, that's what I don't know. Okay, now, here's the issue. Remember last week we talked about the children that aren't touched and aren't learned to associate with each other. And it's called, if I remember correctly, radical affection attachment disorder. Okay? So they do not have a neural structure that knows how to relate to others because they've never had that relationship at a young age. Now stop and think about this. If you're talking about a God or an energy or a force in the universe that has no body, it has no smell, it has no sound, you can't see it, by definition it's incorporeal and it's ineffable. You can't describe it, you can't touch it, you can't be with it, and as a child there's no way to connect with that. Everybody there? So understand that in our humanness, in our mind, we never learn how to establish a link to God. And so here we are, 60, 70 years later. I had to stop for a minute. How much am I going to go? But the idea was there was no connection. Now, it was an ethereal, and kind of like people talk about God, but there's all these structures about God that were given in the religious backgrounds that we have, and generally they're made up on stories that somebody else created. Are you there? Mm-hmm. So that how do you create and how do you connect in an emotional and attractive way with something that you can't see, smell, touch, hear, or experience? So that there is another state of being that we have not been trained to deal with. If you may understand that. So this says, and it goes on and says, the thought system of the truth or spiritual is always present. So within us is that innate ability to understand God and to make that connection again. And then it goes on and says, and is present as truth is always present and can be neither learned nor unlearned. So you can't learn about God, you have to know about God. So everybody's got their theories, and how many different religions are there in the world? I mean, how many different denominations of just Protestantism or Christianity, if you will? Everybody has their theories, and what is the truth? So the truth is what's in your heart. So then it goes on and says, it can be neither learned nor learned. It will thus be revealed to you as soon as the learning thought system ceases to block its realization. So everything we have learned, we have to unlearn. Do you see it? And I know I'm going way out. I know that, but that's why we're here. We're here to see. This is why I keep saying, we got realizing who we are, and we're really a child of God. Then we are far beyond where we think we are. And once we make that understanding, then how can I get back to where I should be? So this is saying the way to get back to being one with God or being aware of the Christ consciousness is to unlearn what I've already learned. It's really fascinating. Okay, now there's further on here. It says, this is Jesus talking, I have said a new way of learning is needed and is here now. So there's a new way of learning. And to continue to rely on the old ways, no matter how effective they were, and no matter how much they spoke the truth, will be to not learn the new. See, we get so deeply embedded in what we say is true. Even those of us have been in the the metaphysical environment for years. Oh, I know that stuff. I've been around 35, 40 years. I'm so tired of hearing that for myself and for others, because we are in a new world now. And so there's a new learning needed. So if you stop and think about that, in a physical way, if I'm born into the physical world, and there was a time when I was a baby, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Do I remember it? No. But I remember childhood and some of the things in childhood. Now, how long does it take for a child to reach maturity? Somebody give me an answer.
Forever.
Yeah, I agree. Could be forever. Now, it's supposed to be 21 legally in our world. And they have figured out that the prefrontal cortex of the brain doesn't really complete itself until maybe mid-20s. So biologically, according to the physical world, maybe 24, 25, 26. So it takes us 25 years just to wake up to the physical world and learn how to be in the physical world. First thing we have to learn is how to get fed. As a child, and how do children get fed? They cry. So it's an automatic response. So we're used to crying for what we need. Anybody familiar with crying? And how long does it take us to learn other things? Anybody still have? No, I'm not going to go there. So we learn all these techniques. We learn all these ways of getting along in the physical world. And in the physical world, we get pretty adept at it. But then we want harmony and tranquility. And where is that? It's over in the Christ consciousness, which requires a whole new set of rules, a whole new set of coding, a whole new way of approaching life, a whole new way of thinking about life, and a whole new system. Everybody there? So, is there any sense when Jesus said you must be born again? So what he was saying, and we know that's an idiom, which means you have to change your way of thinking. But when I got into that, and when I read that this morning, all of a sudden this born again idea just opened up completely. We need to be born again into a spiritual way and let go of the physical beliefs that we've established. And reestablish the neural structures that say, yes, I am one with God. Now, the concept of my presence right here, right now, in this room, I look out and see you, you look out and see each other's, and we see chairs, and we see things on the wall, and we see stands, and we see physical space. So we are so programmed to physical space and relationship that we can't understand being in relationship with anything other than something that has form and substance. Now, I'm going way out on you, but get this. We are so embedded in this physical world that we don't understand the spiritual world. And is the spiritual world there? Yeah, it's there, yes. Mm-hmm. And we know it, but it's only an inkling here. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's a new way of approaching life. So number one, I've got to let go of the old stuff. And we say that quite often, but I'm starting to realize that I talk about it sometimes, but don't necessarily practice it. Okay? Because I still go back and look at what I learned 30 years ago. Well, I remember when. Okay. And so this being born again has a new meaning to me in the spiritual life. And spirit is everywhere present. So how can you go from form and touching and knowing, because I can see it, into knowing that there's a silent energy all around me, everywhere present, and a God by definition that is omnipresent in everything, is all power. In other words, power I'm used to. If somebody has power over me, or I have power, and that's the big issue, and knows everything. Because I, as an individual, don't know everything, but I have an opportunity to connect with Spirit, who knows everything. Which is, we can't believe that, because we've been told you have to learn. So that's why this book says the time for learning is done, and the time for knowing is here. Now, how do we create peace, which is the theory, the idea for today? Let go and go over there. Start learning that new process. And the world doesn't like it. I was in a conversation with somebody this week, and really nice folks. I got into one of these deep conversations. Anybody been there? And it was real interesting to me because one of the basic, and I had my card out, and on the back of the 5 unity principles, and principle number 1 is there's only one power and presence in the universe. Principle number 2 basically is that my thoughts create things. So I am responsible, now it doesn't say it this way, but my paraphrase is I'm responsible for everything that happens to me. Because I'm a creator creating everything. And it's difficult for somebody to take responsibility for their problems. Because it's always somebody else did it to me, which is the old thinking. Right there? So, everybody take a deep breath. And it was like, and I decided, no, I'm not going to go there. Because there's no sense in talking about it until somebody's ready to take it in. And that's part of the new world. It's part of the new thinking. Okay? Now that's the value of community. That's why we're here, and I appreciate you being here. And that's why we have the opportunity to really make a shift in the energies of the world. Okay? That's pretty amazing, isn't it? It really is. And the big step here is to realize that I must be born again, or I must shift my thinking. And many of us in the room are doing that, but I needed a kick in the rear end. Anybody? It was kind of like, okay, am I halfway? Am I 3/4 of the way? Am I 1/10 of the way? Have I really let it go? Have I really allowed God to take over? And that's a big step. Now, I don't know why I'm getting into that phrase, because I hadn't planned on that, but it's kind of like, so the whole idea behind this spiritual thing is surrendering where I am and letting go and letting God, the phrase is let go and let God. So how does that work? And where that works in is going from I'll use it again, being born again, into a new world. And that new world order is love and silence. I'm getting to the point now where when I want to speak up, my ego, I start asking, is my ego talking or am I talking? And thank God I'm starting to do that. I don't often listen to it though. Because we are still, we are so grounded in this form, in this world, that we lose track of whether we're over here or over here. And I'm just being open and honest with you. And that's why it says here, thou wilt keep in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. And then the connection with spirit is called silence. Be still and know that I am God is another verse. Okay? The kingdom of heaven is within. I mean, we say these things, but I'm starting to look at them literally, understanding that my life can be directed by a power greater than I am. And we are so programmed. Anybody familiar with the great motivational statement, if it is to be, it's up to me? I can hear myself on stages of the world saying that kind of thing. And you can control your life. And now I'm realizing, wow, that was way out. So the only control I have is learning to make the connection and allowing myself to be born into a new world, a world of love, a world of silence, a world of trust, if you will. I've gotten into a very interesting area, and the area is letting go of the old bursts or brings in the new. So what the Course of Love said was, as I let go of the old, the new shows up. So that's part of the birthing process. And I was trying to think about the metaphor of that. I was trying to go back and look at what is the stages in the development of a child. And usually, that first year they're totally dependent. They have no idea. All they know is mom takes care of me or dad once in a while, or maybe the other way around. But if I'm uncomfortable, I cry. And if my needs are satisfied, I don't cry. And then they start learning language, and then they start learning to walk, and then they start learning how to interact, They start learning how to run to mom or run to dad for love. They start learning to get the basic needs in life. And we're told, usually by the age of 4, an individual is pretty well established in what their view of life is. So they have connected the neural structures on how to get along in life. So what is our progress in a spiritual context? When we're born again, and I admit there are people that all of a sudden get it all at once. It's called snapping. They're there. But for most of us, it's a process of time of doing the work. We're back to meditating. We're back to affirmations. We're back to Ho'oponopono. We're back to tapping, if you choose, whatever tools you choose to use. And it's learning to walk again. It's learning to speak again. It's learning to even, what do I have to take in to nourish my spiritual soul? And somebody just told me, and turn off the TV, which bothers me. Okay? Because what I take in is the new nourishment for my soul. So in the context of what I'm doing, I'm learning to walk, talk, and exist in a new world, which is called spiritual world. And I believe that's the world that is being talked about in a new world, in the possibility of nirvana, the possibility of a new world order, if you will, which I don't mean that whole context. I mean it's possible to live in a world of peace. Because what creates peace is not conflict, not war, not walking, or what do you call it?
Demonstrating.
So again?
Demonstrating.
Demonstrating. It's not. Because that's all conflict. The only thing that creates peace is awareness, love, and tranquility and harmony. So how do we create a world of that? And it's known as returning to spirit. So we're celebrating that birth. Because I really believe the birth of the Christ child is a metaphor for the birth of the Christ child in each one of us. And that's an honor to be here at your birthing. Memory just came in. Our second child, we were one of the first natural births in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, years ago. And I can remember, and I've said this before, but I can remember my daughter being born, and I made eye contact with her, and I broke down crying. Because here was a soul brand new to the world. And of course, I didn't understand the impact that had in my life. But today, I'm looking at born again people that are reaching a spiritual understanding, moving forward in life, and they're on the track to have easy life, abundance in their life, relationships that make a difference, and a new world to live in. And you are the beginning people in that process, along with a few more out in the world. So I love you, and I appreciate the opportunity to deal with this as we create a new world. Thank you. I love you.